Living and teaching around the same time as Confucius was Buddha, the father of Buddhism. He too had a powerful philosophy that had a massive impact on women's lives. Buddhism focuses on personal development and attainment of deep knowledge. Buddhists seek to achieve enlightenment through meditation, spiritual learning, and practice. They believe in reincarnation, that life is full of suffering, but the path to peace is through reaching nirvana, a joyful state beyond human suffering. Sounds amazing. So where did women stand in all of this? In Buddha's famous story, Mahapajapati, Gautami and her sister Maya were princesses who married the king in ancient India. Maya gave birth to the boy who would go on to become the Buddha, but she died only 7 days after his birth. Her sister raised the boy along with her own children, even nursing him in infancy. But Buddha renounces his wealth and the world, living in poverty for 6 years. It is a wealthy woman who offers him milky rice, enough fuel to allow him to meditate. The story goes that just before enlightenment, the Buddha-to-be was overwhelmed by Mara, the god of illusions, and the Earth Mother, and washed Mara away with water from her hair. The Buddha is often pictured with a head down to the earth in gratitude for the Earth Mother. After the Buddha discovered the middle path and began a religious community, his aunt/adopted mother followed his teaching. Buddha improved women's status by emphasizing man's dependence on women, as woman was the mother of man, earning reverence and veneration. He also improved women's opportunities in education and spirituality, although this was a reluctant process. The story goes that after the death of his father, Gautami approached Buddha to ask if women could join the order as nuns. He refused his aunt/mother. Disheartened, Gautami and her many women followers proceeded to shave their heads and put on the yellow robes worn by Buddhist monks. They followed the Buddha as he traveled, even though he had said they could not become nuns. They persisted in living as they were already nuns, but sought his blessing anyway. By tradition, the Buddha refused Gautami's request 3 times. At last, one of Buddha's closest assistants, Ananda, offered to speak on behalf of the women. He was also, at first, refused. Buddha said,
"Women are stupid, Ananda. That is the reason, Ananda. That is the cause why women have no place in public assemblies."
Oh my meanie head! Changing tactics, Ananda asked the Buddha if women were capable of achieving sainthood. The Buddha agreed that they could, but he still hesitated. Ananda then reminded Buddha of the great love and service his aunt had rendered him as his foster mother. Finally, the Buddha agreed. Gautami and the women who followed her could be ordained. But there was a catch. The Buddha said that women could be ordained only if they agreed to follow the 8 chief rules. The rules themselves applied only to nuns and clearly dictated that in every way a nun would always be dependent on monks and would occupy a subservient role to the men of the order. Even if a nun had 100 years standing, said one rule, she should bow down to a monk even if he had been ordained only a day before. What a jerk. Gautami had a big choice to make. Her dedication to the Buddha and her advocacy on behalf of women like herself is unquestionable. Most of the women who followed her were also widows with adult children, women who had very few opportunities for making their own way in the world. However, Gautami's acceptance of the 8 rules would cement the lower status of women within Buddhism for generations to come. Ultimately, she accepted the terms because doing so opened up new possibilities for women in India, even if it came with serious limitations. The nunnery itself was revolutionary for women. Most women in India were entirely dependent on men in their lives. The nunnery offered them something unprecedented: women living independently from their families in prayerful pursuits. Confucianism and Buddhism spread throughout Asia and merged in some ways, as the philosophies were not incompatible. In India, for example, women's status declined with the rise of organized monotheistic faiths. The society had been patriarchal and had a strict caste system, but the abundance of powerful female goddesses and the existence of female warrior class shows that some women were regarded with high status. There was a prayer for a scholarly daughter and admiring texts for female academics. Vedic texts reveal that women were honored and empowered both in traditional domestic spaces as well as in public spaces, traditionally dominated by men. Yet as Buddhists, Jainists, Brahmanists' faiths expanded, child marriages became more common, and by 200 CE, women's right to education, selection in marriage, and other observable measures of freedom were withdrawn. The introduction of Brahmanism was the final nail in the coffin of women's ultimate subservient position. Brahmanism is the belief in one true God, or Brahman. In every part of the world, culture enforced the standard that a woman's sole purpose was rearing children. Those women who defied the norms did so at their own risk. Some were protected by class, others supported by men, and some found loopholes to exploit. But women who pushed the boundary too far, stood too strong, were denounced as whores and met with violence in the form of domestic abuse, honor killings, charges of witchcraft, or some other horrible demise. Widows in many parts of the world, no longer virgins, were expendable. Sometimes during famines, people would eat older women to survive. Oh my God. In India, it was common for widows to commit suicide to join their spouse in the afterlife. For what purpose could she possibly serve alive? These women, often child brides, married sometimes as early as 7, had never had any choice in their life. On the death of their spouse, they were drugged and expected to join them on the burning pyre. While it's debated how commonly this actually happened, it remained as an ideal death for a widow.